This video is to show my process making my Orlando theme project for my gender and literature course. I am going to tell you facts and interesting tidbits about Orlando by Virginia Woolf, while I also describe what I am doing in each video. Here I am using a light colored yellow paint because I want the canvas in the end to look like an old yellowed book page. If you have never read Orlando by Virginia Woolf, it is about a character named Orlando who goes through many adventures, including transforming from a man to a woman, within her over 300 years of living. I then measured where I wanted the words on my book page to go. As you can see, I looked at my physical copy of Orlando so that my canvas can look as close to an actual book page as much as possible. Originally, I tried to freehand the words and page numbers, but as you can see, it did not go well. What I decided to do instead is trace the letters and numbers I needed onto a piece of cardstock, and then I cut each letter and number out so that I could trace them onto the canvas. To trace the letters onto the canvas. While I am doing this, I will tell you that I decided to make a big book page because the character Orlando is a writer herself. While reading the article Women Naturalists in 19th Century British Travel Literature, I found that women around the time that Virginia Woolf was alive wrote about nature to show their intelligence, which may be why Virginia Woolf herself writes about nature, but she also has Orlando write about nature. Placing the letters and numbers on the canvas, I began to fill them in with black paint. This was the part of the project that took the longest. It felt as if it took over 300 years. I want to talk about the gender identity part of the book Orlando by Virginia Woolf. While reading Man to Woman to a New Understanding of Gender, Virginia Woolf's Orlando, and Angela Carter's The Passion of New Eve, I found that Virginia Woolf, by leading her audience into a false sense of security by having the main character start as a man and then having Orlando transform into a woman, breaks down patriarchal stereotypes. The reasoning for this is Orlando is still the same character whether she is a man or a woman, meaning that the audience cannot say that there is anything a man can do that a woman cannot. That is, of course, except for having more rights, which is shown in the book Orlando, when Orlando cannot own property as a woman. Here I began by erasing any pencil marks that were still visible. I had to do this with an eraser that was on the back of a pencil because I could not find my other erasers. Then I began to stain the canvas. I did this by watering down paint, and then I used paper towels to place the stains where I wanted them. I did this to show that the book has been through many adventures and is old, similar to the character Orlando herself. After I stained the canvas, I made vines out of tissue paper and yarn. I used different colored tissue paper to show the gender parts of this book. Pink is to represent Orlando's feminine parts, blue is for the masculine parts, and purple is for Orlando's androgynous parts. And finally, green are the parts of how nature is supposed to be, similar to how Orlando is told by others to be a certain way throughout the book. Finally, I hot glued the vines onto the canvas to show that nature is a large part of the book Orlando and that it almost overtakes the book itself. To end on one final bit of information, while reading novel cultivations, plants and British literature of the global 19th century, I found that nature in literature often acts as a portal between reality and fiction. Orlando is a fiction book, but the book deals with very real issues, such as gender identity, gender roles, feminism, patriarchal issues, and so on. Virginia Woolf most likely included so much nature in her book Orlando as a portal between reality and fiction.